primary camera. Kind of man that for right now. I'm gonna head up and go to sleep.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the School of Business and Management here at Morgan State University. I'm Mckeever. I'm the Dean of the School of Business and Management. And this is the Willie Lanier Senior Endowed Lectureship in Business Ethics. In the School of Business, we have a set of learning goals that focus on ethics. Our students are exposed to diagnosing ethical issues, coming up with alternative solutions, and the faculty are engaged in research related to ethics. About 3.5 years ago, Mr. Willie Lanier gave us $500,000. He's an alum of the School of Business in Morgan State University, a successful business person, a Hall of Famer, NFL, and so he charged us with pursuing ethics as a topic and field of study for students and faculty as well, so that when students graduate, they will act in an ethical manner, not only in their personal lives, but also their professional lives as well. So today we're very honored to have Mr. Lanier come here. He took the train from Richmond, Virginia this morning just for this event, and we're very appreciative of what he has done early morning from Richmond to Baltimore, and he didn't even ask us to pick him up at the train station. It was very, very kind of him. So we have asked Mr. Lanier to give us a few comments about how he sees academic preparation for students, for faculty, the community in general, the business community, and the whole world. So I will ask Mr. Lanier to say a few words, and then we will have our guest speaker in a few minutes. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Bogosian, and happy to be here with you this morning. Glad to see you again, Dr. Wilson. I was here last week when we had the unveiling of the two prior coaches from Oregon State over at the plaza. A few years ago, I had an opportunity to try to assist an institution with a chair that would speak about a word called ethics. And as I try to look back on what the word means and how it affects all of us, how we are constantly engaged every day in ethical decisions, and in doing that, it was a way to further a thought and a process, not just a view of someone who played a sport, but being able to take that and try to expand it, and to try to expand the view. I find that over my life I sit in many rooms with people that are doing various things and trying to make decisions on different boards, being involved with companies. And for many of you today, you have an issue athletically with professional football that deals with issues that relates to what I would say ethical decisions, and individuals trying to make those decisions and create answers. I know today in New York, the NFL owners have their fall meeting, the NFL Player Association executives are there. There are many people paying attention to what has happened with the game. And the great thing about sport is that it tends to be able to give you a full view of a macro situation that is the same as the smaller view that you. I found that even with that point, I've had many people discussing with me what my thoughts would be, how I view where things are today as where they were at previous points in time. And I think that having this word or an endowed chair on ethics is something that has been important to me for many years in my life. I came to my first discussion of ethics when I had the opportunity in 1975 to have been the first African American to attend the executive program at the University of Virginia's Darden School. While there was a 6-week summer program, one of the most impactful educational experiences I'd ever had. And the thing that impressed me most was a professor who taught behavioral science and ethics. And it was one that I really paid attention to. I played a sport ethically, and I say it that way because for 11 years playing a sport and trying to be better about how you manage yourself in the midst of the activity and not letting yourself risk your opponent. Trying to, in the midst of an arena where people were not necessarily thinking that was a great value, but you had to have your own particular view and value and let it be the guide that could take you to a better outcome. Constantly and safety of players. And in the last few days, obviously, there have been a number of players who've been injured in playing the sport. This afternoon at 4 p.m., I'll be on a conference call, and the commissioner will probably be on the call. Some names from the sport: John Madden, Ronnie Lott, other people who've been in the years. How do we improve the lot for those that are there now? How do you drive in a business that is striving for outcomes that can benefit many, a way to balance and understand the quality of what it is and how you're trying to achieve those kind of outcomes. I thought I would touch on a point that on this past Thursday, I was here for the unveiling of the statues of Earl Banks and Coach Eddie Hurt, who were very important people in the history of this university, history of this country, and using sport as a way to inspire, to give rise to value, to give the fact that you had the skill and ability here equal to anyone, anywhere. So all of those points just tend to come together, in my view, as we speak about being here for an ethical view of how to do things right and correct all the time. So I will add that any of you who have NFL Network on your cable system, whether you do it at the school, I'm not sure, but at 8 p.m. this coming Friday, there's a program that talks about a trip to Israel that a number of former players, Hall of Famers, took in June to Israel. I was one of those. And 18 of us with our wives, or those who have significant others, traveled with the owner of the New England Patriots to Israel to have an opportunity to observe, an opportunity to explore, an opportunity to assess. And the great thing about a quality background, a quality education, over the course of your life, there will be many things that you will do, and it came from here. With my being here last Thursday to be a part of the program, I sat where you sat 50 plus years ago. And I know the things that came from this institution that continue to occur. To be with a group of individuals who played a sport, and I'm at the midst of the higher level with those who did, and then have the invitation to journey to a foreign land and to experience something that was incredible, came from here. So the place that you can go is extreme. My view of each day is an opportunity for an outcome that God has granted, and you have to constantly reach for all that you can gather that day and try to make the most of it, because it's fascinating. I was in Kansas City only 2 weeks ago for a football game. The Kansas City Chiefs played the Washington Redskins. I did something that day because a teammate of mine named Jim Lynch, who happened to be white from Notre Dame 50 years ago, he and I came from different places. I was from Morgan, he was from Notre Dame, and we were both competing for the same position. I had a big question 50 years ago whether it was going to be fair, whether it was going to be equal. But he and I became great friends. So we were being interviewed outside the stadium. There was a statue of Lamar Hunt. Interesting statue here last week. So Lamar Hunt would go out with the tailgaters who come early to a game and say thank you. That's something he did most of his life. So I decided that I would have someone take a golf cart, and for an hour and a half, I went around the stadium saying, hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. And people said, that's you? So yes, this is me. I'm the guy who's in the Hall of Fame. I'm the guy who might show up before, but I want to experience the contact of people saying thank you to somebody else. And you'd be amazed at how you create a relationship with people. But I felt that was something I was doing for Mr. Hunt, because without him and people like him who created a new league, this is economics, this is business. If he had not created the American Football League, since the National Football League was not taking African Americans to play, I wouldn't have had a job. There would not be my being here to talk about any of these things, because the opportunity wouldn't have been there. So all of us, all of you, have the chances to reach for and look to achieve things that are expansive. So my last point will be that while I was there that evening, I'm in a suite, and being in the suite, there's discussion that goes on. So someone hears that I'm from Richmond. This gentleman is named Ken Sullivan, CEO of Smithfield Foods. He tells me he's from Richmond also. He says where he lives. I said, that's interesting. I only live 5 miles from you. This was on Monday night. He says, well, tomorrow we flew out on our corporate plane. We have to fly down to Arkansas, Bentonville, to have a meeting with Walmart, but I have to come back through Kansas City, pick up some other people. If you want to, you can ride with us home. So I fly back to Richmond on a corporate jet with the CEO of Smithfield Foods. I said to him, this is not where it ends. we will do business together. Because the moment created the opportunity that I had no idea was going to unfold. But you don't take things and think that's the end of it. You must always expand whatever that happens to be. So I'm happy to be here today to offer some comments to you and look forward to Professor Rogers' comments, who has a wonderful resume. And I was enthused when I saw that when I was here this past week, and even though I'm in between going from here to New York to work on something else, I wanted to have a chance to stop, say hello, and hopefully things go well today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lanier. We appreciate it. And our guest is en route. He missed his train, and he's in a taxi cab on his way here, so he should arrive in the next 2-3 minutes. If you bear with me, please. He has arrived, so it's around the corner. Now, what we will do in the next few minutes will be our rising junior, Gabriel Clark, will introduce Professor Rogers, and then he will deliver his remarks. He has a video that he would like for us to view with him later. And then at the end of his presentation, we will have a brief Q&A session. And then we'll ask President Wilson to come forward and give concluding remarks. And then that will be the end of this session. We apologize for the delay, but he is here, and I'll let Gabriel introduce him as he makes his way in. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Okay. I'll be introducing Mr. Stephen Rogers, who is the MBA class of 1957, a senior lecturer in general management and teaches entrepreneurial finance, along with a course titled Black Business Leaders in Entrepreneurship. Professor Rogers is a 1985 graduate holding a Bachelor of Arts degree from Williams College. Before becoming a professor, he owned and operated 2 manufacturing firms and 1 retail operation. Professor Rogers has taught internationally in Africa, Australia, Germany, Hong Kong, India, Mexico, Philippines, and Vienna. Professor Rogers has received awards such as the Outstanding Professor Award for the executive programs 26 times. He has also received the NBA Lawrence Levingood Outstanding Professor of the Year Award twice. He was the first professor in the school's history to receive the latter award more than once. A few other awards Professor Rogers has received is being named as the 100 Men Impacting Supplier Diversity by Ebony Magazine, the Burt King Award for Service from the African American Student Union at Harvard Business School, and Professor Rogers has his own book titled The Entrepreneur's Guide to Finance and Business. Lastly, Professor Rogers has been quoted in many publications, including The Black Enterprise, The Wall Street Journal, and Fortune.
Good morning. Let me apologize for being late this morning. Everything and anything that could go wrong did go wrong, but now that I'm here, everything and anything that could go right will go right. By any chance, can you hear me back there if I don't hold the mic? Okay, I'll hold the mic then. Let me begin by saying I teach at Harvard Business School. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to come here today. It is a privilege to be invited to such a prestigious university that has such great history in the black community. In the vernacular of the old school, I'm what's called a race man. My entire life is dedicated to uplifting black people. And so when I get invited to come to a historically black college, I jump at it. I would actually pay to come if not invited. So this is a privilege for me and an honor for me to have been invited here today. I have a course at Harvard Business School that I created titled Black Business Leaders and Entrepreneurship. And I created the course in response to coming back to my alma mater 5 years ago and recognizing the fact that black people were not being included in our curriculum. In essence, we had a segregated curriculum at Harvard Business School. We generate case studies that are taught in business schools throughout the world. And we have an inventory of over 10,000 case studies. And out of those 10,000 case studies, my research showed 2 years ago that less than 60 of them had black protagonists. And so what's worse than having stories about blacks that focus on pathologies is having us completely excluded. And so I decided in response to that to do something. Two things. One is I went to the dean of the school and said, we need to integrate the curriculum. Secondly, we need to create case studies that have black protagonists, and black protagonists who are not entertainers and who are not athletes, but black men and women who have succeeded as a result of their great business brilliance. And so with that being said, he gave me approval and gave me a special budget to create my own curriculum and content. And so with that, I hired 8 black writers to co-author cases with me, case studies with me. And they are former Boston Globe writers, a couple of them who won Pulitzer prizes. And we've last year produced 12 new case studies. Typically, a professor will produce 1 or 2 case studies in a given year. We produced 12, and we taught those 12 case studies in my new course, Black Business Leaders and Entrepreneurship. Right now, we're producing another 12 this year as well. And this year, for example, we produced a case on a fellow by the name of Lonnie Johnson. Lonnie Johnson, who's ever heard of Lonnie Johnson? Okay, Lonnie Johnson, black man, all of us in this room should know, was the creator of the Super Soaker water guns. Lonnie Johnson created Super Soakers that has generated over $1 billion in annual revenue. Lonnie Johnson is a NASA engineer, an alum of Tuskegee University. He is literally a genius. And Lonnie Johnson is presently creating a new lithium battery at his company in Atlanta, which he moved from the suburbs to the inner city of Atlanta, surrounded by public housing, because he said, I want my company to be in a location where I can employ poor black people who can have high-paying science jobs. So Lonnie Johnson created a company now that is located in the city of Atlanta, and he's presently working on a new lithium battery that emits less heat but generates more power. The problem with lithium batteries is the heat. That's the issue. And so he's doing that. So we're writing a case study about Lonnie Johnson. We have case studies that we've written about other great businessmen and women, including Valerie Daniel Carter, a black woman who is a franchise owner, probably the female in America who owns the largest number of franchises in the country. She owns 160 Burger Kings and Pizza Huts. She's headquartered in her hometown of Milwaukee. We have case studies about Frank Baker, a hedge fund manager who created a hedge fund in New York. and has created so much wealth that he just gave his alma mater, University of Chicago, $10 million. He's an alumnus of Harvard Business School. We've created a case study about Corey Thomas. Corey Thomas is the CEO of a cybersecurity firm called Rapid7. The case study is about, should he take the company public? He did take the company public, generated over $1 billion in valuation with taking the company public. So we have case studies about what I call my personal heroes and sheroes, businessmen and businesswomen who have excelled in business using their intellectual and business skills and intellectual brilliance to accomplish those things. So in addition to me being proud of my course, which was over-enrolled by black students and all of the students in the course were black, my syllabus says very explicitly this is not a course for black students only, but that's all who signed up for it. But it turned out to be the best course I ever taught in my life. I've been teaching for 22 years, and I had the best experience I ever had in my life. I had students from, it was twice the enrollment as to what I expected it to have. I had students from 8 of the Harvard 12 schools. I had students from the business school, the engineering school, the divinity school, the law school, the Kennedy School of Politics, the design school. And I was very joyful and very elated to have these students who were interested in the topic of black business leaders in America. And so with the creation of that course, I've been able to accomplish one of the things that have made me extraordinarily happy in my life. The second thing that has made me happy is the accomplishments of my children. My 2 daughters are my pride and joy. My oldest daughter, Akila, she attended Williams College just like I attended Williams College, small liberal arts college in Massachusetts. Then she went on to Harvard Business School. She went to Harvard Business School, and after graduating from Harvard Business School, she said, I want a dad, instead of taking a job, I want to make a job. She had an offer to go to Disney, 6-figure, paid to work in their finance department, but she said, what I'd like to do is I want to go back home to Chicago, and I want to have an impact on the black community in Chicago. So with that, she took a course at Harvard Business School called Real Estate in Emerging Markets. She did not define emerging markets as India or the Philippines or other countries. She defined it as the Inglewood community of Chicago, where I was born and raised, one of the highest poverty level communities in the country. And she said, I want to go there and make a difference. So with that, she decided to buy homes, and her business plan said that she would buy 200 homes at $30,000 each, make an investment after the market had collapsed, and then with the idea of 7 years later selling those homes. So 200 homes, $30,000 each, an investment of $6 million in the lowest or the highest poverty community in Chicago. So today she has over 100 homes that she owns in Chicago. The tenants are primarily African Americans. They're entirely African Americans who are low income families but really good people. And so my daughter understands that she's expected to make a difference in other people's lives. My youngest daughter, Ariel, attended Princeton University, where she majored in aerospace and mechanical engineering. When she was looking to graduate, she called me. She said, Dad, now I want to pursue my passion. I said, what's your passion? She said, well, you know, I want to go to Hollywood. I said, Hollywood? I paid all of this doggone money? And so she said, I told her, I said, well, you know, you have an obligation to give back. You must give back to the black community. And so with that, she made the decision to come back to Chicago, our hometown. She came back to Chicago, and as you all know, we have a crisis in America, and that is African-American boys are not graduating from high school. And when they don't graduate from high school, where do they go? We know the next place is going to be prison. 80% of the people in prison don't have high school degrees. And it costs more to incarcerate a man than it does to send a man to Harvard. In America, it costs over $50,000 a year to incarcerate a person on average. In New York, it's almost $200,000 a year. So there's a social entrepreneur in Chicago who said, I want to be a part of the solution to the problem. His name is Tim King. So Tim King, former headmaster of Catholic schools in the urban communities of Chicago, decided I'm going to start a school that focuses on the uplifting and the training of young black males. So Tim King founded a charter school called Urban Prep Charter School. Urban Prep Charter School. And Urban Prep Charter School, if you were to look on the website, you would see that the boys are dressed like they would be going to one of the most prestigious private schools in the country. Khaki pants, white shirt, red tie, green jacket. But these young men, they come from the worst socioeconomic circumstances in the city of Chicago, the highest poverty levels. Tim King said, we're going to found this school and we're going to help these young men graduate. So he founded the school 7 years ago. My family was a benefactor to the school because the first school that was founded is in my old community where I was born and raised in Inglewood of Chicago. 4 years after the school was founded, 100% of the boys graduated. It's a school where the students are expected to go to school several extra hours a day and even on Saturday. They have to catch up. On average, when the boys came to school, they were testing at the 4th grade level in math, 5th grade level in reading. They're coming into 9th grade. By the time they graduate, they've caught up because the school's philosophy is multifold. One is we're not going to suspend anybody unless you bring a gun or have drugs, because we know that your behavior is reflective of your socioeconomic circumstances. And so we're going to wrap our arms around you. We're going to love you until you love yourself enough to graduate. Secondly is we're going to surround you with black male role models. We're going to let you see what it looks like to be a man, and so that you can emulate that. And then thirdly, and those black male role models will primarily be your teachers. Thirdly, we are going to make sure that all of you are prepared to go to college, and 4-year colleges. And so the school was founded. 4 years later, 100% of the boys graduated. The next year, 100% of the boys graduated. The following year, 100% of the boys graduated. 100% of the boys went to 4-year colleges. My daughter left Princeton University, came to teach at Urban Prep Charter School in Chicago. She taught math there. She taught math there for 1 year. They selected a professor of the year. After 1 year, she said, Dad, now I'm really interested in pursuing my passion. I said, what's your passion? She said, well, you know, I want to be in a hip-hop band. I said, well, you know, you could do that, but you're not going to make very much money. So she goes to work for my oldest daughter, and you know what happens when siblings go to work for each other, right? My oldest daughter called me, Dad, I'm going to fire Ariel. I say, don't fire her, because if you fire her, then she's going to want money from me. But my pride and joy are my 2 daughters and what they've accomplished. My youngest daughter now has a company where she applies technology. A company that applies technology to women's fashion. She also does acting. So she was in the movie Straight Outta Compton, playing a gangbanger. But she's just a suburban girl from the suburbs of Chicago, okay? But she has a company that applies technology to women's fashion. Her first product, patent pending, a woman's high heel shoe. You push a button, and what happens? What happens? It turns into a flat. The shoe turns into a flat. Make sense? Women absolutely say yes, it makes sense. In fact, when I say that in some places, the women in the audience stand up and give it a standing ovation. The idea of standing ovation. But what we see here is, we see from that example the cornerstone of innovation. Cornerstone of innovation. And the cornerstone, the foundation of innovation, ladies and gentlemen, comes from solving a problem. Solving a problem. And so when we think about entrepreneurship, and my background, as you can see in my bio, I taught entrepreneurial finance for 17 years. But when we talk about entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship is synonymous with innovation. And where does innovation come from? It comes from solving a problem. At Harvard Business School, we say that it is identifying an unmet customer need. An unmet customer need. That's solving a problem. What's the problem? Women are carrying multiple shoes to events, and so now they need something such that if they go to a wedding, they don't need to carry an extra pair of shoes, and they can dance with the same pair of shoes very comfortably. So it's an unmet customer need. That is the cornerstone of innovation. And when we talk about innovation, therefore, we're talking about this other thing called strategy. Strategy, in the simplest terms, strategy means just very simply being different. In the world of business, when you are asked as an entrepreneur, what is your strategy? When you see entrepreneurs who go on the television show Shark Tank, they're being asked, what is your strategy by Mr. Wonderful? And he's asking them, what is different about what you're proposing than what's presently out there today? So my daughter, she's proposing what? I am going to be the creator of a line of shoes for women. What's different? The difference is you push a button and it converts to a flat. It's solving a problem. Solving a problem. So one of the keys to entrepreneurial success, ladies and gentlemen, one of the keys to entrepreneurial success is to think strategically. If you think strategically and you act strategically, it will lead you to innovative thinking. And innovation comes from identifying a problem that needs to be solved. One of the worst things an entrepreneur can ever say to the question, what's different about you, is for them to say, well, I'm just like so-and-so. If you're just like them, why should I do business with you? Why should I do business with you? I'm just like so-and-so. And so our challenge as businessmen and women is to come up with a strategy. And what I found from my experience in governance primarily, I serve on the board of directors of SC Johnson Wax. We make Glade, Raid, and Windex. We do about $8 billion a year in annual sales. I've been on that board for 22 years. I serve on the board of trustees for a mutual fund called Harris Associates, who manages the Oakmark funds. We have $80 billion of assets under management. I'm the former chairman of the audit committee and the investment review committee. I've had governance experience for over 2 decades. And what I found was most CEOs in Fortune 500 companies are not strategic thinkers. They're tactical thinkers, meaning what? They believe, let's keep growing by simply doing the same thing over and over and more of the same thing. So the reality is we have stories like Blockbuster Video. Blockbuster Video at one time, as you well know, had a monopoly. They had a monopoly, didn't they, on video rentals. The business model, when we say the phrase business model, we're just talking about how do they make money, okay? Their business model was one that said, we will rent videos to you after you come into our location. You must get off of your couch. You must get in your car, come to our video store, go look on the shelves, select the video, wait in line. While you're waiting in line, hopefully you see we have candies and other items that are high margin items sitting right there. Hopefully you'll buy those. You rent the video, you take it home, you watch the video, you come back, you get charged a late fee. You also get charged a fee for not rewinding the video. That was their business model, wasn't it? And who came on the scene? Netflix. Netflix came on the scene. And what is Netflix business? They are renting videos. Videos are a commodity, aren't they? They're a commodity. What was Netflix's strategy? We're going to mail it to you. So Netflix said, our strategy, the way that we're going to be different is we're going to change the distribution channel. We're going to change the distribution channel. Innovation, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't have to be technology. Innovation can be something as simple as just changing the way that you get the product to a person. So now the business model has been changed, hasn't it? I don't need to get up off of my couch. Well, maybe I can get up off my couch and crawl to the mail slot, right? Could Blockbuster Video have done that? Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Why didn't it? Well, because the CEO of Blockbuster Video and the management team and the board of directors, they were thinking tactically. Let's continue tactical thinking. Let's continue to do the same as what we've been doing before versus let's do something different. What they were unwilling to do was engage in what's called constructive destruction. Okay? They were unwilling to do what we teach in business school, and that is called embracing the theory of sunk costs. The theory of sunk costs. And the theory of sunk costs says what? It says you make a decision today based on what's good today. You do not make the decision about what's good today based on the investment that you made yesterday. The investment that you made yesterday should be thought of as a cost that has been sunken and buried. Let that go. Let that go. Do not burden yourself with the willingness to change based on what I invested yesterday. And if you embrace the theory of sunk costs in your personal life, it enables you to free yourself up from bad relationships. If you embrace it in your business life, it enables you to make good decisions and quicker, more efficient decisions as well. So what we see in the business world typically, we see in the corporate world specifically, the unwillingness to let go. Well, you know what? I have all of these locations already. I'm Blockbuster Video CEO. I have all of these locations. I can't give up this model. I've made too much investment in these locations. So the result is what? You just created an opportunity for someone else. Could Blockbuster Video have simply done exactly what Netflix did? Yes, but they were unwilling to embrace the theory of sunk costs. You know, it's sort of like, to bring this point home, is you make a dish of lasagna, you taste the lasagna, and it's awful. The theory of sunk costs says you should do what? Throw it out. But what do we typically do? We're weak, right? I could salvage this. So we go to the store, we buy more ingredients. We spend more time trying to salvage it. And then we do that, and then we taste it, and it's still awful. The theory of sunk costs says we should have just cut our loss and let it go. Let it go. It's like how they catch monkeys in certain parts of the world. They put a hole in a tree, put a ledge in that hole with a piece of fruit on that ledge. The monkey comes in, looks at that piece of fruit, puts his hand in there, grabs the piece of fruit. But the hole is such that the only way that the monkey can get his hand out of that hole is to do what? Let go of that fruit. If you want to see how they catch monkeys who don't believe in the theory of sunk costs, just Google it. You'll see pictures of monkeys just standing there. They're just standing there. Isn't that what happened to Blockbuster Video? They were just standing there. Okay? They were just let it go and free yourself. Free yourself for the other opportunity. What did Tiger Woods do at the height of his success? Some other students before, when I said that, they said, he had an affair. No, I'm not talking about that. What did Tiger Woods do at the height of success? He changed his swing. He changed his swing. He let go of the investment that that's really bold, isn't it? At the height of success, you don't change your swing when things are going bad. Well, I did when things were going bad because I was trying to get good. But when things are going well, are you woman enough? Are you man enough to say, they're gaining on me, they're coming. They're coming. I don't need to wait until things get bad. Let me engage in the theory of sunk cost right now and let go of the investment that I've made and go to the next level. And so our job as entrepreneurs is to think strategically, to think and act strategically. There's an old jingle. It went like this. Your dings will remember this one. McDonald's is our kind of place because it's Ronald's place. Puts a smile on your face. It's a happy place. That was the jingle for McDonald's. Who was McDonald's? Who were the targeted customers for McDonald's? Children, families, right? Children and families. And then we heard, hold the pickles, hold the lettuce. Special orders don't upset us. All we ask is that you let us have it your way. The jingle for Burger King. Jingle for Burger King. Who was Burger King targeting as their primary customer? Somebody. It was adults. Which adult? Male. It was men. It was men. How do we know they were targeting men? Well, who other than a dumb man would put all of that beef in his system, right? They were targeting men. If you think back about how Burger King, how they make their hamburgers, and back in the day, we used to actually see them as customers with the conveyor line in the back. It's closed now, the kitchen, but the way they make the hamburgers, they put it on a conveyor line. It's a conveyor line that has holes in it, and fire flames shoots from the top and from the bottom as the hamburger goes across the conveyor line. That's how it's cooked. That's similar to what? Grilling. What was happening in America on the 4th of July? Men throughout the country, what were we doing? We were grilling, right? We were grilling the beef, we were grilling the poultry, we were grilling the beverages, we were grilling the desserts, right? Grilling has been something that men have done since the caveman era. Burger King targeted men, ladies and gentlemen. And what did we just learn from that? You don't have to be first. You have to be different. And being different means thinking and acting strategically. And then who comes on the scene? Wendy's. Wendy's comes on the scene. And Wendy's is targeting whom? Women. Wendy's is targeting women. How do we know Wendy's is targeting women? Wendy's was the first to offer what? Salads. Wendy's was the first to offer salads. You don't have to be first. You have to be different. Wendy's also was promoting the fact that their beef is never frozen. Wendy's was saying very explicitly, freshness. Compare us to McDonald's and Burger King. They freeze their ground beef. We never freeze our ground beef. Who did the freshness resonate with? Women. Women. You don't have to be first. You have to be different. And if you can't articulate your difference, then you're not engaging in strategic thinking. You must be able to say very explicitly, this is how I'm different. I'm on the board of directors, formerly on the board of directors of a company called SuperValue. We're a grocery wholesaler and retailer. We own Cub food stores, Save a Lot. My term ended 5 years ago. Before it ended, term ended because of tenure on the board. Before it ended, I got up one cold February morning in Boston, and I flew from Boston, and I flew to Minnesota, where SuperValue was headquartered, on a cold Sunday morning. I was the chairman of the governance committee, and I was going to meet the CEO of the company on a Sunday in a conference room at a hotel. I'm going to meet him for what purpose? To fire him. To fire him. Someone wants to meet you on a Sunday in a conference room in a hotel. You're not being invited because you're going to get a bonus, okay? Something bad is about to happen. Now, he knew he was going to get fired. We are a company to trade on the New York Stock Exchange. Our stock price had been, during his 3-year tenure, had been continuously declining because our same-store sales had been continuously declining. Craig Herkert was his name, the nicest guy you'll ever meet in your life. It's public information. But what Craig Herkert couldn't do was create and implement a strategy. Craig Herkert had the mindset that the way that we grow this company is that we just simply open more grocery stores. We open more grocery stores at a time when the economy has completely faltered. The ugliness of our company's underbelly now is showing. And that ugliness is our prices are too high. Our prices are too high for commodity items. You got to be different. Okay? I'm not a big fan of whole paycheck, but they're different. Okay? Whole Foods. I call it whole paycheck. Okay? But they're different. But if you're a commodity item, high prices, nothing else being added, survival is not probably in your future. So Craig Herkert was fired. We had to replace him. We had to replace him. And the primary reason was he was not a strategic thinker. He was a tactical thinker. And what I found is entrepreneurs are gifted with strategic thinking. The successful entrepreneurs are gifted with the ability to think strategically. And what happens is, after they've been successful, then they become all of a sudden tactical thinkers. But coming into the industry, entrepreneurs know that they have to offer something completely different to be successful. And when we talk about entrepreneurs, ladies and gentlemen, we talk about entrepreneur, here's the definition of an entrepreneur. And I forgot to say, as I mentioned the whole story about Craig Herkert, Craig didn't do anything unethical whatsoever. Very ethical man, just unqualified to lead the company, okay? But when we talk about entrepreneurs, we're talking about a person pursuing an opportunity, okay, while putting capital at risk and ideally employing people. I say ideally employing people because, unfortunately, about 90% of entrepreneurs do not employ people. But what we desperately need in America and throughout the world is we need more entrepreneurs who employ people. I go around the world and I give speeches about the fact that entrepreneurs are my personal heroes and sheroes because entrepreneurs who do well for themselves, they do well for society. They create jobs. And people who have jobs are self-sufficient, and self-sufficient people live in healthy communities. And so we desperately need more entrepreneurs. And to be successful again, you must have a strategy. And when we talk about entrepreneurs, there's two types of entrepreneurs, ladies and gentlemen. The first is what's called the lifestyle entrepreneur. And the second is what's called the high growth. The lifestyle entrepreneur is also known as the mom and pop entrepreneur. The lifestyle entrepreneur is a person who runs his business haphazardly. He doesn't have a plan. He just says, I have a passion to be in business. That's not enough. Passion is not enough. You got to have some skills as well. And you should have a plan. So the lifestyle entrepreneur is the person who says, I'm just going to open my door and hope something good happens today. Something good like some customers come in the door. And what that lifestyle entrepreneur is in pursuit of enough capital to live a nice, comfortable lifestyle. That I want to just earn enough money so that I can live a nice middle-class lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with being a lifestyle entrepreneur. But in America, we need more in the latter category, and that is high-growth entrepreneurs. A high-growth entrepreneur is the person who has a plan. Not only does she have a plan, she works the plan. You know how sometimes we write plans and then we sort of push them to the side? But she uses the plan to actually guide her towards her mission of success. The high growth entrepreneur has a plan, and not only is she interested in earning a good income, but more importantly, she's interested in wealth creation. She wants to create wealth for herself, wealth for her investors, and possibly even wealth for her employees. 3 stakeholders. I implore you to embrace and pursue high growth entrepreneurship. Embrace and pursue high growth entrepreneurship. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, I'm going to go over here. I looked over here and I saw this guy right here. I said, that guy looks familiar right there. Okay, how you doing? Well, all right, it's my pleasure to see you. Man. All right, beautiful. Can I get a little space here then? Okay. Now, let's elaborate on the topic of entrepreneurship. And if we elaborate on it, we see we can use what's called the entrepreneurship spectrum. The entrepreneurship spectrum. And the entrepreneurship spectrum enables us to see who is and who isn't an entrepreneur. And so on one end of the spectrum, we have a person who works for IBM, a Fortune 50 company. They're an employee. They're perfectly satisfied with being an employee. They have no ambitions other than to have a nice career, and there's nothing wrong with that. On the other, as we move down the spectrum, we get to our first member of the Entrepreneurship Club, and that is the person who goes the entrepreneur route via franchising. They go the entrepreneur route via franchising as the franchisor or the franchisee. Franchisor is a person or legal entity that creates a company, and then they sell the rights to others to replicate that business. The franchisee is the acquirer of those rights. Okay? And so in this category, we can put Valerie Daniels Carter. I mentioned her to you earlier, an African-American woman who is in Milwaukee, owns 160 Burger Kings and Pizza Huts. Valerie Daniel Carter also built a community center in the inner city of Milwaukee. Valerie Daniel Carter also built a hospital in Africa and is a part owner of the Milwaukee Bucks NBA team. Valerie Daniel Carter, a woman who has gained and become an extraordinarily successful high-growth entrepreneur via franchising, as a franchisee. The case study that we've just written about Valerie Daniel Carter deals with the topic of whether or not she should now become a franchisor. Should she become a franchisor? Her plan was, her thought was, I want to pursue the creation of my own franchise so that I can actually help create more black business owners. Okay? And I can provide financing to them. So Valerie Daniel Carter is in that category right there. And then we have also another member of the Entrepreneurship Club, and that is called the acquirer. The acquirer. And that's the person who buys an ongoing concern that is not a part of a franchise. And so best in this category is another woman by the name of Cathy Hewes. Cathy Hewes. Cathy Hewes is an African-American woman in Washington, D.C., owns 70 radio stations in 9 different markets, urban markets. The radio station company is called what? Radio One. Radio One. Radio One is a publicly owned company that trades on the NASDAQ market. Cathy Hewes is one of our high-growth entrepreneurs who's had great success via acquisition. She bought her first radio station 30 years ago and then continued to buy radio stations after that. So one can go the entrepreneur route via acquisition as well. I have owned 3 companies. I've been an entrepreneur, and all of my companies' ownership came through acquisition. I purchased my first company when I was 28 years old, 2 years after I graduated from business school. Purchased the second company 2 years after that, the third company 2 years after that. So I've gone the entrepreneurial route via acquisition. Why did I go the entrepreneurial route via acquisition? I never fancied myself as being a great idea man. But I know I can operate a business. I know I can lead. And so I went the entrepreneurial route via acquisition after, interestingly, training at McDonald's for 2 years. When I was a second-year student at Harvard Business School, I actually applied to McDonald's, and they accepted me in their franchisee program. So in my second year of business school, I was training at McDonald's while I was in business school. I was required to train 20 hours a week. I trained 20 hours a week. 8 of those hours had to be 8 continuous hours on a Friday or Saturday during the heavy lunch period with no pay. You're expected to do it for 2 years. I did it for 2 years. They offered me a store in downtown Boston, but they wanted me to pay a price that I thought that didn't make sense. And I said to them, that price seems inflated. I said, I didn't go to business school to get dumber. It just doesn't make any sense. They said, just trust me. And I said, well, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to rely on myself. I don't want to have to trust somebody else to take care of me. So after 2 years of training with McDonald's, and we couldn't come to an agreement, I left McDonald's. The beauty of what happened to me was I was fortunate enough to have learned in business school the theory of sunk cost. And so I didn't let my 2 years investment in McDonald's determine whether or not I should stay in McDonald's. It just wasn't a good fit. And what I learned from that experience was I'm not a good fit in the franchise category. I want more independence. And all of you in this room, if you pursue and you want to be an entrepreneur and go on the franchise route, even if you don't want to go the franchise route, you need to do a self-assessment and be true to yourself. You should ask the question, what is it that I'm very good at? What is it that I'm excellent at? And then secondly, what is it that I enjoy doing and or dislike doing? Because just because you're good at something doesn't mean you want to do it as a career, okay? And be truthful and be honest with yourself about that. Find out the truth about yourself, and ideally, you want to find that out before you make a major investment. So you had the acquirer category. In the acquirer category, we also have a guy by the name of Wayne Huizenga. Wayne Huizenga is not African American, but he's one of the people I'd like to highlight because he is one of the greatest entrepreneurs that has ever walked the earth of America. He's owned 3 multi-billion-dollar companies. Can anybody name some of them? Waste Management, Blockbuster Video, AutoNation, Extended Stay Hotels, Miami Dolphins National Football League team, Florida Panthers National Hockey League team, Florida Marlins Major League Baseball team. Wayne Huizenga never created a company from scratch. He purchased everything. 3 multi-billion-dollar entities. When I interviewed him, I said, Wayne, what is common with all the businesses that we just mentioned? What's common with those businesses? These were his answers. 1, he says, I like businesses that have recurring revenues. Okay? So he says, businesses with recurring revenues, ladies and gentlemen, businesses where you sell to the customer one time and you keep getting repeat business from the customer. Be mindful, all businesses do not have recurring revenue, right? In the real estate industry, a residential real estate developer, what does he or she do? They go find a piece of land, they build a home, they sell the home. Where's the recurring revenue model in real estate? Where is it? It's in rentals. The recurring revenue is in rentals. Your job as businessmen and women, try to find a way to make your business a recurring revenue model. Businesses that have recurring revenue are looked upon by Wall Street very fondly. Why? Because recurring revenue enables you to predict what's going to happen, better predict what's going to happen. So he says, I want businesses that have recurring revenue. Secondly, he says, I want businesses where we rent things to people. He says, I'm in the rental business. He says, those are the two keys to my success: recurring revenue and rental. Think about it. 3 multi-billion-dollar businesses off of these two simple strategies, okay? Recurring revenue and rental. He's used that model and it's crossed over industries. He was in the garbage industry. He was in professional sports. He's in hospitality. He didn't define himself as, I'm a consultant, I'm in the hospitality business. He said, I'm a business leader. And I implore you to do that. And that is, define yourself as a business leader. At Harvard Business School, that's what we tell our students. You are a business leader. You're not a financial analyst. You're not an expert in finance. You're a business leader. And great business leaders, ladies and gentlemen, can run anything. Because the fundamentals of business cross industries. But you need to not only be able to say that, you need to feel that. I can actually run something that I don't know something about. I'm not a technologist guy. I'm very comfortable. If I needed to, I can go in and be the CEO of a technology company. I had the opportunity to demonstrate that when I was on the board of directors of a utility firm. I didn't know anything about it. I was on the board of directors. We fired the CEO. We had to get an interim CEO in there. I said, I'll do it. I can lead. I don't need to know anything. When I bought my first company at 28 years old, a lampshade manufacturing company. What did I know about lampshades? Zero. I didn't even have any in my house. But I could lead. I knew how to manage. Define yourself as a leader, a business leader, and then look what happens. All of these different opportunities can come your way. So, when we talk about being in the rental business, recurring revenue, we talk about him in Blockbuster Video, people buying videos repeatedly. Okay? Let's talk about the rental business for the sake of time. Rental business, we look at Blockbuster Video, what is he renting? Videos. Extended stay hotels, what is he renting? Hotel rooms. Professional sports, what is he renting? Seats. Isn't that phenomenal? This cat is in the business of renting seats. He's renting seats. Can you name some other businesses where seats are rented? Somebody. Yes, go ahead. Movie theaters? Go ahead. Yeah, any mode of transportation? Say it again. Education. There you go right there. You hit it right on the head. We're in the business of seat rental. I know some students think, well, I pay all of this money, I own this seat. No, you don't. You're just paying a high price rental. If you want to own the seat, we can send you to the development office to talk about that, okay? But what I want you to embrace, ladies and gentlemen, is I want you to embrace the reality that innovation doesn't come from technology, limited to technology only. It doesn't come from having the smartest technological idea. It comes from saying, I'm going to do something different than other people. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to be in the rental business. And that rental business is going to cross a myriad of different industries. Wayne Huizenga is an example of that. And then finally, we have in the spectrum the person who goes the entrepreneurial route via startup. And who best to symbolize this category than the namesake of this building, Mr. Earl Graves Sr., the founder of Black Enterprise, excuse me. So be comfortable that you can go, some of you in this room have said, I don't have a great idea. Don't worry about that. You can do it via acquisition. You can do it via franchising. And if you go that route, you're not limited to just simply being a lifestyle entrepreneur. You can be like Kathy Hewes, who owns 160 restaurants. You don't have to be a lifestyle entrepreneur just because you go franchising. You don't have to be a lifestyle entrepreneur because you go the acquisition model. You can be like, you can be like Valerie Daniels in the franchise industry and Kathy Hewes in the acquirer industry. I'd like to close now with showing you a video bringing home this topic of strategy, and that is being different. Being different. I have a friend, his name is Mckeever, and Steve Mckeever owns a record label called Hidden Beach, Hidden, Hidden Beach record label. And Steve Mckeever and I, we had breakfast one morning, and he said, after breakfast, he said, here is a new act that I've signed. Anytime anybody tells me about something new, I'm going to start a new business, a new act, whatever, my first question is always, what is your strategy? What is their strategy? What is different about them? I said that and posed that question to him. What is different about them? In response, he said, why don't you look at the video and you tell me what's different about them? And so with that, I'm going to show you this video to bring home the point about strategy using music. Okay? Okay. While we're waiting for that, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Juliana Wallace. I am a first-year student here at the Earl G. Graves School of Business and Management. I'm in the Honors College, and my question is, you brought up multiple times about being different. So what would you suggest is the best way to be different?
Beautiful. What's an easy way to think about how to find a difference? First of all, we said difference comes from identifying a problem. So that's one way. Another way to be different is to identify what's called the value chain. There's a thing called the value chain for any business and for anything that you do, okay? And so the value chain, this morning when you got up and you came here, there was a value chain that existed as a result of that. That means there was one step that you did followed by another step, and the subsequent step added value to the previous step. So in the world of business, we speak about value chains, okay? And so we look at things in terms of steps in the value chain. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Let's look at the value chain for getting a taxi. Back in the day, the way that we used to get a taxi was we called the taxi service, right? And then we did what? We called them. We tell them where we want to go. Okay? Tell destination. That could be the number one. And then we do what? We wait. And then we do what? Fourth step. We get in the taxi and do what? And give directions or give address. Give destination. Okay? And then the next step is we go to the fifth step, and then after we've given the directions, we drive to the destination, and then we pay, and then we get out, okay? How can you be different? You look at a company's, or you look at an industry's value chain, and you say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compress this value chain. And so, who compressed this value chain? Uber. So Uber took 5 steps, and if we really went to detail, we'd see even more steps. Uber took 5 steps and almost compressed them into 2. How can you be different? Identify a value chain and say that I'm going to compress that value chain or elongate the value chain. Example of a company that elongated the value chain. Burger King. Burger King said what? They said, have it your way. They said, we will customize. McDonald's, when they were first in business, their production process was build to inventory. They built and made all of their hamburgers in anticipation of the rush, and every hamburger was exactly alike, wasn't it? It was all uniform. If you went to McDonald's, they had the hamburgers already wrapped. If you said, I want a hamburger with ketchup only, they tell you, go to the side, it's going to take a couple hours. Burger King, that jingle I sang to you, what did it say? It said, have it your way. Burger King said, we will customize. Does customization take longer? Is it adding more steps? Absolutely. Look at the value chain, ladies and gentlemen. Compress it or elongate it. One of those two things is innovation. You're being different. There you go right there. So with that being said, let's look at difference using music. What's different? Let's see.
I do know that there are some people in the room right now saying, you know, I don't really know or believe if they're doing all that up there. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to take that wall of sound, break it down brick by brick, like so. See, with vocal play, you have to truly believe that that instrument is right in front of you, like so. Did you see the intensity? You gotta be serious about this thing. Check this out. That's Garfield. If you like that, you're gonna love when he does it like this. I know. You're amazed that all that bass comes from that skinny body. We're amazed too. See, we've got our own personal DJ. He's got 2 turntables right here. Can you see them? No, you can't. You can't see him either, but he can.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing what they call me DJ.
DJ Ron E for you. If the bass is over here, it would be logical that the highest part is over there. He does a little something like this.
Let me conclude by saying this has been my absolute honor and privilege to be invited here today. And let me close by also saying that for those of you in the audience who are students, please be aware of the fact and embrace the fact that you have an opportunity to matriculate to one of the best schools in the country. Morgan State University is an outstanding university, has such great history, and you have an opportunity to use this education that you have here to propel yourself to be something special. You are special as a result of deciding to come to Morgan State. Use that specialness to grow and become the kings and queens that we need you to be, especially in the entrepreneurial world, where you create jobs for other people so that people can live safely and have healthy communities, and you can continue to be something special. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rogers. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Dr. Mary Foster. She is the one who made this happen. She kept communicating with Professor Rogers over the past several weeks, and he responded positively to come and address us today. So thank you. And now I'd like to call upon our president to give concluding remarks. And after his remarks, if Dr. Gibson, our provost, and Mr. Lanier would stay for a couple photo opportunities, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. Dr. Wilson, we have a little plaque here, too.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll make my remarks quite brief because Mr. Lanier, he indicated earlier he's on his way to the NFL offices in New York to discuss this issue that is unfolding. But first of all, we can do better than what we just did. This was really just one terrific lecture, and let's show Professor Rogers just how terrific it was, if you will. I've sat through a number of these, and what you've heard from Professor Rogers, I hope you're taking copious notes, is one of the best lectures in this space that I have ever heard. Thank you very much for coming to Morgan State University today and talking about an area where we here at Morgan are saying quite publicly that this is the space we want our university to be in, that we want Morgan State University to be known as one of the most innovative and entrepreneurial universities in higher education in this country. And so Provost Gibson, myself, all the deans, just last week, we had a 2-day retreat around this same topic of innovation and entrepreneurship and how to think differently and how to apply this model to Morgan. And you very well know, Professor Rogers, that higher education right now is projected to be the next bubble, much like the housing industry. And this industry is so difficult to change, and those of us in chancellorial and presidential positions where we've gone to the edge of the cliff and we've seen what's on the other side, we're coming back saying, hey, look, if we don't change the way we do business, we will be the next Blockbuster. And that's what we're saying here. And so thank you very much for imparting those incredible pearls of wisdom to us today. Next, before he gets away, let me say just a word about Willie Lanier. Willie Lanier, of course, had a remarkable career in the NFL, playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, the first African-American to play middle linebacker. You know he is in the NFL Hall of Fame. But I don't think I'm sort of, if you will, this is not an overspeak on my part. We've had a number of conversations. He did not see his NFL career as the be-all, end-all. It was a means to an end. And what he's doing right now in terms of his entrepreneurial ventures, Professor Rogers, I think you'll put him in that growth entrepreneur category, not in the lifestyle. And he never forgot about the institution that prepared him to be that which he now is enjoying, life after football. And as a result of that, he gave a substantial gift, university, to this particular school to endow this lecture series. And so we thank you very much, Willie Lanier, for all that you have done and all that you continue to do to inspire and to invest, and certainly you can lay claim to owning one of these seats. And so with that said, I'm going to ask Professor Rogers to come forward, and also Mr. Lanier to come forward, and Provost Gibson to come forward as I present to you just a token of our appreciation. And let me read this. It says, Morgan State University Appreciation Award, presented to Stephen Rogers, guest speaker, for imparting valuable insights and inspirations during the 3rd annual Willie E. Lanier Senior Lecture in Business Ethics, Earl G. Graves School of Business and Management, October 17, 2017.